Okay. Fun fact, Jack did not know what the hustle was. So we have been educating on here for the last few minutes. And bear with me, we're trying to figure out, so this is kind of a test run to see adding people on to a live. So we'll see how it goes. So Jack, I think you hit live. Let me know, are you live?
Yep.
Okay, and then go watch my live somehow. Oh, no, just go watch my live. Don't do a live.
And
bear with me.
delete video. I'm not sharing that. Okay, and there's your live.
Okay, I think there's a way.
Send a request to be in Crystal Money.
Yeah, do that one.
Request.
Okay, I think it worked. We'll see. I have to go in another room. There you are. Okay, oh, I think I forgot did I forget my paper there? Thank you. Okay, everybody. How's it going? Bear with me. I want to go to another room so you don't hear all the feedback, since we are both on the live. So as a background, this is a series I'm wanting to do to help basically just feature different people doing different side hustles, because I know a lot of my followers really want to do side hustles but get caught up on a lot of different obstacles, and a lot of it is just informational. So this way, hopefully you can be educated on different kinds of side hustles that you might be interested in, and be able to ask any questions on what we're doing and what they're doing. So first of all, Jack and I, so you guys all probably know, we are talking tonight about our real estate side hustles. So Jack, do you want to talk about like what we have, like why, like our current situation?
Currently, we have our personal house in Raleigh that we lived in. We're renting it out right now to some friends from church. But we also have a smaller house in Raleigh that we rent out we bought on Airbnb. We bought for the purpose of renting it on Airbnb full time.
Okay, but any follow up on that?
What else do you want? So
a lot of them. So the personal home we didn't want to sell because we're not sure long term what our plans are, where we're going to be, and we just love that house a lot. So we're renting that one out just long term, like a regular rental. And then we bought another home. So we had started. I think a lot of you guys know. We had started doing Airbnb out our personal house just while we went on vacations, and we started making enough money. We've made between $300 and, on holidays we could get upwards of $500 a night. Renting it out on Airbnb for people visiting Raleigh. A lot of them were just like weddings or people visiting family. And we started making enough money that we were like, oh, this is really profitable. It was more than paying our mortgage. We were getting more than $15,000. Is that right, Jack? A year? And that was like, there were several months and there were like, like I had a newborn and I didn't want to go on vacation. And so that's like not including the months that we just didn't travel at all. And so we were like, okay, let's try and do this full time. So we bought a property. We researched, bought a property, and decided to do it on Airbnb. And if you guys have watched some of my videos, you know that the city of Raleigh one time was like super Airbnb friendly. Well, not super friendly, but they were like, yeah, go ahead and do it until we decide regulations. And then overnight they were like, nope, we're not going to let you do it anymore. So we started to try and figure out what we wanted to do. It didn't make sense to rent it out long term, meaning like a traditional unfurnished house for a year or more. And so we're like, okay, let's just try and rent it out furnished for, they're technically considered long-term tenants. Anything over 30 days in a lot of cities and states are considered long-term. But when you talk to like people in the real estate business, they consider long-term like a year or more. But so we were like, well, let's do like a few months here and there renting it out. We've done some on Airbnb, some we found outside of Airbnb, and it's doing pretty well. Do you want to talk about, Jack actually just did the finances a little bit today. He was looking over our prior years for our taxes. So do you want to talk about how it's doing, how it did last year?
So last year we made gross $41,000, and we had $16,000.
What do you mean by gross? Oh, so,
Can you see me? I don't know what just happened.
I don't know. Yeah, I can have to run. Okay, Jack, try again. He was talking about gross. For those who don't know, gross is just the rents, total rents we made, total income. Maybe. Told you guys, technology hates me. There we go. That's better. Okay, so gross we made, how much? 41,000?
Little over 41,000.
Okay, and Chris is asking, is the gross on the one property or does that include your personal house? It is not. That was just on, we call it Top Ridge. That's the street it was on. That was just the house we rented out full time. And keep in mind, that was also for, at one point I was just trying, because Raleigh said you can't do short-term rental, you can't do vacation rentals anymore. They have to be longer than 30 days. And so we were like, okay, well, maybe we'll sell it. And so we were like, let's just get somebody in there really fast. And we'll just get it to the springtime when it's a better market to sell, and we'll just worry about paying the mortgage. So we had somebody in there for 8 months. 8 months?
8 months.
8 months paying over $1,000 less than market. That we now know is market. We didn't know what market was then. We hadn't done enough research.
Well, they were almost, so half. They were a little bit more than
more than market rent. So we could have made a lot more last year if we had done a little bit more research, which now we've done. Now we have people in there, and just so you can give you real numbers, they're paying about $4,000.
Mm-hmm.
And these current ones we did through Airbnb. We like doing it through Airbnb when we can, because Airbnb takes care of the payment. We still have them sign a lease agreement, though. If you're going to have a long-term renter, you need a lease agreement. Jack, do you want to talk about, there were some questions on that, on how did we create a lease agreement? How did we get that? Why do we need it?
So we don't have our own lease agreement. We use North Carolina's residential lease agreement, but we have our own addendum because we are not a typical long-term rental. We pay for all of the utilities. All of the utilities are in our name. We cover pest control, all of the utilities, the internet, but we do have an addendum that stipulates what they can and can't do. That if they're using utilities in excess above a certain amount, that they're responsible for it. That we will pay up to a certain amount, and if they use and abuse that, we're not going to go bankrupt because they ran the water they took a 3-hour-long shower. But
if you're like, okay, I wouldn't know how to do that, there are real estate lawyers who can do it for you for a few $100s probably, right, Jack? Jack, we had the advantage.
Or just Google, type in uh, residential lease addendum, and you'll find examples online. And there's several websites that do free, that you can sign up, pay a certain amount, and it will give you templates that you fill out, that they'll walk you through how to fill it out. They'll ask you questions, you fill in the information, and then it creates the addendum or the lease for you. The few that
Yeah.
I've used are, they'll charge you X amount a year, or they'll give you an 8-day free, 7-day free trial. So I filled it out using the free trial and then canceled it.
Yeah. So basically, though, you can the lease. Don't stress too much about like. Don't like make that the reason you don't do it. But we do, when it's over 30 days, you want a lease agreement, because when someone stays in your house more than 30 days, they have something called squatters' rights. And all of a sudden it becomes very difficult to kick them out if they decide to stay. And then you have to go through an eviction process. And so like you can have people in there that aren't paying anything. And if you don't have a lease agreement, it's really difficult to say, well, why did you let them in your house? So protect yourself. It protects you, and it also protects the renters. So even though we're doing furnished long-term, we still make sure we have a lease agreement signed, even when we work through Airbnb. Okay, so I guess we didn't. Sorry, I cut you off, Jack. So we grossed 41,000.
Mm-hmm. Our normal expenses were a little over 16,000.
That's just operating expenses.
Mm-hmm. And then we decided to take a good amount of those remaining funds and reinvest it in the house. So we did significant repairs. We remodeled both bathrooms, took them down basically to the studs. We left the drywall, but we put in a brand new shower, tiled shower, brand new vanities, brand new floors, brand new
Like that
toilet.
in the backyard for kids, because we figured our area, a lot of the people staying there had children.
And pets. So we have a fenced in backyard. It's a decent sized backyard. We have 2 sheds in the backyard, and we put in a swing set to make it pet and kid friendly.
So overall, though, we made, in terms of just cash flow, not including what we call capital improvements, these are things that are improving the value of the home, which you tend to get dollar for dollar out when you sell it. We made about $25,000, right, Jack? Is that the number?
Yes. In 2000.
And that was last year, like I said, and that was with some months renting significantly below market value.
2 months vacant.
Yeah, and 2 months vacant. But you will expect about a month vacant every time you turn over a guest, because you have to find a new one, and then it's whenever they can move in. So we've listed it early January. Somebody booked almost immediately, but wasn't until they couldn't move in until the end of January.
And to clarify,
for at least 3 months.
so you can find tenants and you can turn over your property a lot sooner than 30 days. It doesn't necessarily have to be 30 days or more, but we have decided that we don't relist the property until we are absolutely sure that the people are moving out, because we've had several tenants that have stayed, and it's cheaper for us to keep a tenant than turning it over multiple times. So the first tenant in January of 2019 originally signed a 3-month lease, was going to stay. She was building a house. If we had relisted the property and found somebody to move in when she was originally planning to move out, we would have had to pay for the turnover and then have a brand new tenant. So instead, she actually stayed for 5 more months, total of 8 months. So we saved on that turnover, but we do have a little longer turnovers when we do. We just have less of them.
Okay, so I want to make sure we get to all of the questions. So, first question, how do you know if you can afford a second home to short-term rent?
So in the mortgage industry, what?
I'm grabbing my battery. I don't know. Anyways, continue. My phone's old, so it dies fast.
So I'll stop talking because.
Sorry. Is it out here? Yes, I love it. Continue.
So for cash flow purposes and investing, you want to getting a loan on a property is always better than paying cash, because if you make, say you made $25,000 on your property, but you paid $250,000 for it, as opposed to $50,000 down payment, you're going to make more on your money. So obviously if you have the cash, you know how much you can spend on a property if you buy it all in cash. But for mortgage purposes, lenders will allow you to have between 40 and 50% of your monthly income devoted to a mortgage. So if you make, say, $50,000.
I'll just say, because I want to make sure we get to all of it, Jack.
Okay.
I think a lot of people get hung up on the numbers. Talk to a mortgage broker. They'll tell you how much. Basically, there's an amount based on your income that you can borrow. And there's like a total amount, right? And so you have to take out what you have for your personal home. Which is why I very, very specifically, Jack and I have always lived in houses that are significantly smaller and cheaper than we can afford, because we want to save that debt for a rental house. So I'll go talk to a mortgage broker. I'll let Jack talk more. Sorry, I cut you off.
So basically, based on your income, you can qualify for X amount of mortgage. And however, say you qualify for $300,000 of a mortgage. Now, if your personal house has a $250,000 mortgage against it, then a bank will only lend you an additional $50,000. So not only is your mortgage payment, but the property tax, your insurance, those regular fees go to your allowable.
Sorry, I lost you. Probably when you're in an apartment and both using all the internet. Okay, so hopefully that answers that question. And that's one suggestion I'd give if people are wanting to invest, is the cheaper you can keep your personal home, or the more you can pay it off, the more you have to borrow for future homes. And you can't include the income. This is frustrating. You can't include the income from the second home until you've had it for 2 years, right?
2 years.
So they're going to assume that house is making nothing for 2 years. And then, so this July, we will be able to include our income from our rental property, and it will now allow us to buy more rental properties because we can show it's making income. Okay. How do you figure out the rules for Airbnb in your city?
Google.
Google and look on the news tab, especially. Just put Airbnb, whatever your city is, things you should keep in mind. You have to look at your city rules, your state rules, and then HOAs. make sure if you guys are in an HOA and you're wanting to do your personal home, um, make sure and look at those. You're looking for vacation rentals or short-term rentals. So if you see those words, those will be kind of your like, okay, this is probably not going to be allowed.
And that is
But
for less than 30 days.
less than 30 days is a vacation or a short-term rental. Yes.
So
So,
if you're
which is
interested,
why we can still do what we're doing now without any problems. Um, another part of that. Oh, rules in your city. Oh, the other thing is they're always changing. So like Raleigh just got a whole entirely brand new city government, city council, and they're much more Airbnb friendly. The old council kind of got in trouble for not being, I don't know, growth friendly enough, and so they put a whole new one in. But we are probably still going to continue doing what we're doing with the long terms because, or with people more than 30 days, because we are making so much money and it's less work, so which is really nice. Okay, how did you figure out your pricing?
so Megan just asked,
Yeah.
are we mostly banking on people waiting to move into homes? Not necessarily. So one person was building a home. One person uh, just came back to the area for a few months, and then this most recent person is relocating with their job. So the relocation company or their company is paying for it. But we've had inquiries from a bunch of people, um, not
A
always.
lot with jobs, which is nice because then the income is a little more like I don't worry so much about like background checks when they start talking about jobs and stuff because, or at least I don't worry much about the quality of renter because I know I'll get paid because it's coming from a company, which is nice. And a lot of times what they do is they get a certain stipend. And so they'll look for like the nicest house that they can get for that stipend. And then they don't care. To them, what does it matter, right? Um, okay, Megan's also asking, where do you list or is it through Jack's realty business? We list on Airbnb, HomeAway, VRBO. I think they're the same.
VRBO and HomeAway, they're the same thing.
And then the other one we got was just word of mouth. Someone's daughter was coming back to the States to have a baby and then long story, the job was paying for it. So, but that was just like friend of a friend asked about that one. But we've had a lot of traffic on it and interest in it just through Airbnb, which like I said is nice because then they're taking care of the payments.
It does cost a little bit more in fees and advertising through Airbnb, but it's worth it not to have to track down the tenant, to coordinate how to get the rent check from them. They're not home. It's worth the headache, the avoiding of the headache.
Yes. I'm all about the thing with risks. I think a lot of people get scared about risks with real estate. It's understand what they are and then find a way to mitigate them. And so it's just nice. Airbnb takes care of a lot of stuff. Yeah, and I would say like insurance. Insurance is important. Make sure you have insurance and the right insurance. Short term, less than 30 days is different insurance than long term. And you just want to make sure you're covered. And a lot of times they'll cover loss of rents. If a tenant were to destroy our house, that's what people say. Well, don't you worry about a dog ruining your house? I just say, well, we have a deductible, and I just go, we're making every money every month, and if the dog destroys the house, then we will get a new house. We'll pay the deductible, and we'll get a nice, probably nicer, newer house from it. Okay. How much time and money do you spend maintaining the property and prepping it for the next renter?
I would probably say no more than 10 hours.
Are you talking long term or short term?
Long term.
Yeah.
Short term is probably 5 hours between guests. So probably 2 hours.
I'd say less. It's laundry. Laundry and cleaning is the biggest thing. Maybe 30 minutes communicating with the guest on sometimes we've had things missing or they've left things. Yeah, so I'd say 30 minutes on communication, however long it takes to do laundry. And I recommend buying at least 2 sets of sheets, if not 2.5 sets of sheets for all of, and towels for everybody. So that way I can have fresh stuff ready as I'm like doing the laundry for the other stuff. Because then I can just do it back at my house at my own time and leisure. There are companies that will do all of that stuff for you, and you can even find companies that will manage it for you, but they charge a lot. You're going to be looking at 15%, all the way up to some I've seen are like 50% to manage vacation rental properties. Shorter term properties, you can hire a manager. Granted, all they're doing is finding a tenant for you, and you're looking at around 10% of rents. These are percentages of the total rents, not even of profit that they're getting. So management companies can take a huge chunk out of your profits, and it's not that hard, especially with Airbnb now. Even if you're far away, so we are not in the same state as our rental anymore, and you just get a really good handyman and get some cleaners, and yeah. So our cleaning fee in between this last renter, so on our longer term fully furnished house, our cleaning fee was like $150. If they have a pet or if the carpets are really gross, I go through and we shampoo the carpets. Huh?
Short term. On the long term, it's $400
For cleaning? Well, that includes, you're charging what I charge them. What I paid was I paid somebody $150 to come through, but then the extra fee includes carpet cleaning, and any additional cleaning. So like this last one, we had to fill in a few holes in the wall. How much did we pay total for all the like miscellaneous stuff? Do you remember?
$275.
Yeah, so not bad when you consider we're getting around $4,000 a month in rents, and we estimate it costs, including utilities and everything and wear and tear on the house. We estimate it's costs us around $2,000. So that's $2,000 a month that we're making that it's rented. That's not including, we also charge additional pet fees, and so we can also have the potential of making a little more to cover wear and tear and additional cleaning. Okay. What do you look for in a home for a shorter term rental?
So we looked at 4 bedrooms. So this was when we were doing short term. We wanted to maximize the number of beds and the bedrooms per the cost of the home. So we were looking at homes that were around 1,600 square feet, and our requirement was that it was 4 bedrooms, so we could fit as many beds in that place as we could.
Because it's a family area. Raleigh is very much, we found the people coming, and that's what you have to kind of know. I think a lot of people also would say, oh, but our city isn't a destination city. Nobody's, like, there's not a lot of tourism. There's always a market for Airbnb. There's always a market. I was surprised we thought that of Raleigh, and we never had a problem with getting things booked for like I said, visiting families, graduations, weddings, all sorts, like family vacations, just totally random. There's going to be a market. And here's how you know. There's a website called AirDNA that you can go and research what people are actually getting per night on listings. And I would have a tab open with AirDNA, and you can see, I think it tells you the name of the listing, and it would tell you how much it's making. And so then I'd go check out the listing, how nice it was. And it shows on AirDNA, it shows you a map of where it's located. So I'm checking out where it's located, how nice is it? Is it more updated than ours? How many bedrooms? Are they doing it full time? or not. And some people were like us originally and just renting it out while they were gone. And so that's how I analyzed. That's how I found the house. Is I was like, okay, this is what I want. I also wanted one that I didn't have to put a lot of money into to fix up, because the more money you put into it, so remember, investing, you put money in, you expect more to get out. So you want to put as little money in as possible when it's investing. Your own personal life can be different, but when you're talking investing in business, you want as little of your cash in as possible, because then it's making more money and you have more cash available to buy more homes or to invest in other ways. So I did not want one that was going to take a lot of work. There are loans you can get that include the work, but for various reasons we weren't going to do that. So I looked for that. I wanted as many options. A lot of homes I found on Airbnb were not kid friendly. A lot of them were not pet friendly. So if you can make your home either of those, you're opening yourself up. Your market's going to be a lot bigger. Is there anything else I'm missing, Jack, on that?
And we wanted a home that we could easily resell.
Because we knew Raleigh was kind of on the fence, and we didn't know whether it was going to swing one way or the other. And we had never done a full-time Airbnb before, so we wanted a house that we knew we could turn around and sell. So it couldn't be on a weird street. Like Airbnbs, normally you'd be fine on a busier street than a personal home. But we didn't want that because we cared about resale. We were like, okay, we want to hedge our bets. So like I said, I'm not like a risky person, but you do need to like weigh your fears with like what's reality. Okay. I'll do a fun question. How do you stash the stuff you don't want people to access?
So in my personal home, I put all of our stuff in our master closet. We have a bigger walk-in master closet, and I put a exterior door lock on it, and we go through the house and take everything that we don't want them to have access to, and we stick it in the closet and we lock it. Our closet looks like a hoarder's house every time we leave, because we stuff it to the brim with stuff that we don't want them to get into.
Yeah. So to get your house set up, people on Airbnb, they don't want a lot of clutter. So that is something that if you're looking to rent your personal home and do it while you go on vacation, get rid of the clutter. People don't want it. Then I would also take several laundry baskets, just the really cheap plastic ones I'm pretty sure they're from Walmart. And I would just go room to room and just like throw stuff in. Because inevitably I have 3 kids. Inevitably there was going to be toys last minute everywhere. It didn't matter how much I cleaned before. And then we'd throw it in the closet. Jack would lock up his tools. He had a what's it called? Tool box? What's it called?
Toolbox.
But a giant one. And he had a lock. So we locked up that. And then the other thing is, once again, you understand the risks. There's a risk. And so we would talk to the kids about like their toys. If all special toys went into the closet, we'd have conversations with the kids of anything that's left out, they might play with. We did usually leave a few toys out because we were marketing to families, because there are not a lot of homes out there that are family friendly. A lot of the Airbnb homes out there have little trinkets that you can break, or no baby gates on the stairs. And so ours is very family friendly. We would leave a few toys with the understanding that things would go missing and things would break. You get that in your mind ahead of time. Things will go missing and things will break. And when that happens, you go, good thing I just made $1,500 to cover that. As well as for the bigger items, a lot of times you can kind of talk to them. We got paid back by I don't know of any guest we had that like broke something or took something that didn't pay it back. I can't think of any, but we also insured ourselves through, there's a company called Slice. So I looked and I did tons of research on horror stories of Airbnb before I did it, because I wanted to know exactly what I was getting myself into. And so ways I found through that to protect myself, Airbnb has an insurance policy, kind of. I had never heard of them. It's very guest friendly. The host has to prove it, and there's almost no way to prove a lot of this stuff unless the guest just like flat out says, which for us, we were fortunate the guests always did admit to it. But I wanted to cover myself just in case. So there's a company called Slice, and you can pay for insurance by the day. It's set up, it was invented basically after Airbnb to help insure you. So it's like $8 a day or something. And so I would do that, and it was a legit insurance policy that rather than Airbnb's kind of like host guarantee, it means nothing. From what I found on the internet, I couldn't find anyone who actually had it like pay out. And then we also put cameras on every entrance to help. So we know, and we would tell the guests. That's the thing. You have to tell them with a camera, but it also works in your favor because then it's like, hey, we have a camera, no funny business here, right? Okay, did that one. Oh wait, I did that one. What was the weirdest guest we've had, Jack?
The weirdest one is we had a lady inquire about renting our house for 20 people, asked if we had enough sheets and places to put 20 people. And we said, well, it's not a 20-person house, but if you really wanted to, you could fit 20 people. We've got tons of towels and sheets and linens. And then we were charging for 20 people, we charge per guest. So we told her the total price, and she said, well, can't afford that. So a week later, somebody else booked for the same weekend, same number of days, but for a couple's weekend. And when they got there, they messaged me about an hour later and saying the internet wasn't working. So I went over, fixed the internet, and as I was leaving, another car pulled up and 2 kids jump out of the car. So my first thought is, who brings kids on a couples retreat weekend? And I walked back in the house with them to show them. They had a few questions about the TV, so I went in to show them. And the lady admitted that she was there for her sister's wedding and mentioned the same name as the lady that inquired previously for that same weekend. So
our Ring camera, we would get alerts, and it was like going off all night. And we were this was one where we were a little bit terrified, like, are they gonna leave? What would we do if they didn't leave? What if they're gonna destroy our house? And my feeling is always, my recommendation with Airbnb is when they're in your house, you say nothing. You do not call them out. You do not do anything. Let them go. And like I said, we were protected with insurance, and we had put our valuables away. Not that we have that many valuables, but like the irreplaceables. Because if you anger people in your house, that was things I read on Airbnb. When you anger people in your house, that's when they can start like destroying it or just getting angry. You don't want to anger people when they're in your house. So we let them leave, and then we said, hey, FYI, we checked the camera, you have a lot of people. And we ended up, that was one we did have to fight a little bit with Airbnb itself. We were like, we have proof that too many people were in, we charged this amount. Eventually, it took several months of me complaining on their Facebook page, but they did pay us the extra. And nothing was broken. It was actually the cleanest anyone had ever left our house. When we got in, it was like spotless. Yeah, we had a couple things broken. They paid for the broken things. And nothing big. Our broken things have been not too bad. Somebody ran over a sprinkler, or not a sprinkler. What is it called?
The backflow preventer.
Backflow preventer. So that one was a fun one. And that one we felt bad because our neighbors, I mean, it was like spewing water. We had to have the city come out.
Like if somebody had ran over a fire hydrant.
Yeah, there's a giant rock, a giant 3-foot rock, plastic rock we put over it because we knew our driveway curves and we knew people would run it over. So this giant rock, and they ran over the rock and busted the backflip runner. Yeah, it was another fun one. How about our coolest guest?
Coolest guest.
I have coolest experience, or at least one of my favorite. Was when so North Carolina had a couple of years in a row where they had hurricanes, and it was like some of them were like back to back. And so we got to host a lot of people that were basically escaping the hurricane, and like while their houses were like being destroyed. Yeah, they were in Wilmington, and Wilmington got hit really hard, and so it was really cool to be there and be able to provide things for them. We made sure we had like tons of water and extra things for them, and they had their pets. We originally, at the time, we were not allowing pets. We were able to say, yeah, no, go ahead, take your pets. So that was a really cool experience. Yeah, and back to the weirdest. The other thing was just every time we would come back to our house, we'd always be like, this is really weird. There's always be like one thing like, oh, and my not dish towel, the washcloths would just disappear. And it was almost like they used it for maybe something, and it got really dirty, and they were just like so embarrassed. And they would just throw it away instead of like showing me. They're super cheap. I didn't care. That's another one where you have to just kind of go, we're getting paid enough. But every time we'd come back to our house. Is what?
They would put things back in the kitchen in the wrong place.
Yeah. That would drive Jack nuts, but I don't know, not one night. But it's always like a weird thing. Like, why is this here? Or like one time, like,
we've got
yeah, like one time there was the air fresheners. Sorry, I keep talking over you, Jack. What'd you say?
They would put utensils in the wrong drawer when we clearly have a drawer that has them labeled and where to put them, and we have a cupboard that's just for glasses, and they'd put glasses back in a cupboard on the other side of the kitchen, not where any of the other glasses go.
Yeah, that was always Jack's pet peeve, but it didn't bother me that much. I figured they probably didn't remember. Yeah, any other questions on real estate in general, or any other things you wanted to say, Jack? I think we covered all of the questions people asked. Are there any other suggestions you've had?
No.
I'd say the big one that we're kind of like, so Jack grew up in the real estate business. His parents have done really well with real estate. I did not. I was taught that real estate is risky and it is scary and people will ruin your stuff and be annoying. But something that I didn't know is, you care about cash flow. So it's an added benefit in real estate that sometimes that you're paying off equity in the home and that it's appreciating. Usually we do not bank on appreciation. That's to me more in the line of gambling, because you never know. The economy is cyclical. At some point it will go down, right? So I don't bank on appreciation, but true real estate professionals care about cash flow, something called cash on cash. They want cash out of it so they can take that and then invest in more. So if you're looking to invest in a property, make sure you're looking at cash flow, not just is it paying off equity and appreciation. I think that's kind of gotten the market flooded a little bit with long-term rentals especially. We had a hard time in Raleigh because the market, another thing, my other suggestion, get to know your market. Know what houses are selling for, know what they're renting for, either long-term or on Airbnb. Just get to know it. Like I said, that AirDNA site is a great site. I ended up paying for, when I was like, I'm going to buy this, I ended up paying for a month of analyzing so you could get more of the statistics. But yeah, Raleigh was struggling because the house prices were increasing so fast. It was like 10% every year. and rents were not increasing that much. So we wanted to buy, we had money sitting around to buy a rental property for 4 years, 5 years, more. That we kept trying to look, and we were looking at duplexes and fourplexes. The market in our area was pretty flooded. People would snatch them up really fast, and they weren't making enough money. I think you should probably most people shoot for at least 7% cash out of a real estate investment. I like to do more, but we kind of, because of Airbnb, we got creative, and we've actually been able, like I said, we were making $20,000 that we estimate, and we put $50,000 into it. So that's 40% cash on cash. So that's way better than we thought, because we were willing to get a little bit more creative. Instead of that, we would not have been able to even we would have barely covered the mortgage